Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Today will be a shorter video. I just want to go over 3 decks that I used to hit infinite during the X-Men and Mutant and Sentinel and all that good stuff season. So the infinite card back is right here. This is the infinite X-Men card back that I earned for reaching rank 100. Thank you very much to the climb being a lot easier due to you getting 5 ranks after you increase every tenfold. So when you hit rank 70, you actually get shot up to 75. That really made it feasible because I do not have enough time to play that many games of Snap. So that really helped out. But I'm going to go through 3 decks that I used to hit infinite for the first time. And if you guys want to check these decks out, give them a shot going into the new season. That'd be great. They're still very viable, still very solid decks. So let's go through all 3 of them. First up, the deck that I use the most is what I'm calling Bast Darkhawk. It's a Bast and Darkhawk deck. I have all 3 of these decks. I will have full videos, or I do have full videos on my channel. You can watch gameplay and a full breakdown. So I won't go super in depth with the breakdown here, but I do want to just discuss the general premise of the deck and kind of give you, just a general view of how it won games. So this deck is all about Darkhawk, who gets +2 power for each card in your opponent's deck. So you really utilize this ability and Mystique copying this ideally to get a huge power Darkhawk. And you combo that with, Rock Slide, Korg, Black Widow, other things to keep more cards in your opponent's deck. That always helps get the extra power on Darkhawk. Then I'm using a lot of cost reduction cards here. So I'm using Zabu and Sarah. So Zabu can decrease Darkhawk, Shang-Chi, and Rock Slide all down to 3 costs, which is huge. And Sarah allows for some insane turn 6 plays. So on turn 5, you play Sarah. She reduces the cost of everything by 1, but not below 0, or not below 1. But essentially what that lets you do is play Darkhawk for 3, Mystique for 2, and then still a 1-drop or a 2-drop because Sarah's on the board. Or you could just simply play Iron Man and then Mystique. That's 6 mana there. Or if you have Zabu and Sarah out, you could play Darkhawk for 2, Mystique for 2, and then anything else for 2, either Mr. Fantastic or Shang-Chi if you have both those out. So crazy value, lets you really rotate on the last turn to any of the 2 locations that you need and kind of dominate those. I'm using Bast in here to give everything 3 power. The only negative it really has is if I have Rock Slide in hand. Technically it's -1 power for Sarah as well, since she is a 4, but Bast gives everything else a nice boost, or just doesn't affect it, but really helps when you hit Iron Man or Darkhawk with that 3 power, because they just automatically come in, bringing a lot more to the table. And it really helps playing Black Widow, because not only does she have the Widow's Bite effect, but she also offers 3 power at that point. So this is the #1 deck I want to shout out for my climb. It was by far the most efficient deck that I used. It got me most of my wins, got me from like rank 50 to 70, got me a ton of wins. Any hot location day, I was still playing this list, and it was still feeling really good. Didn't really matter what the situation was. This was my go-to. This is what I rocked all the way. Rocked, no pun intended. No pun intended. But that is what I rocked through a majority of my climb. But there are 2 other very important decks that were on trying to utilize the hot locations of the last weekend. So I'm going to jump to those now. So one of them was actually really funny. One of them was Sentry Viper. So this is a list that I've gone over before on my channel. Super fun list. But a bar with no name was the hot location for the weekend, which essentially was if you have less power, you win that location. So the Hood was a must, just being a -2 power off the bat. He was extremely important for just winning that location because he could at least contest it. But a lot of people were running the Hood. So since a lot of people were running the Hood, he wasn't quite always enough. So you can combo that with the Sentry. If the bar with no name ended up being all the way to the right, Sentry would be an automatic snap game. As soon as I saw a bar with no name all the way to the right, I snap, I find Sentry, I play him, I get -8 power on that right location. I'm going to win that, and then I'm going to try to win one of the other 2 locations. I got a lot of cubes. I jumped from like 73 because I'd fallen down a little bit, all the way back up to like 86. So I hit 80, climbed, and then climbed a little bit more during that hot location, which was really good. But beyond that, just Viper in this deck in general, you could just play something bigger than Viper and then give it to your opponent on bar with no name, and you could just win that way. One example is I would just play Deathlock on bar with no name, and then I would just simply play Viper on the last turn, swap that, I end up winning that location. Big surprise play, you win a bunch of that. Or even just Arrow, on their turn 6, they're probably going to play something that has more than 8 power. You play Arrow on that location. This deck got me so many funny and cheeky wins with that hot location. Now, I do want to say this deck is good outside of the hot location when that didn't pop up. The deck is still solid, it's just not as snap heavy. You know, I don't go for giant snaps and giant wins like that. It's just a pretty consistent early destroy deck with a pretty funny package of Sentry and Viper, but you can also just end up destroying the void that Sentry creates, which is fine. And it's just a very solid and consistent destroy deck, and it's one of my favorite like Deadpool decks for sure. It's not rocking Venom or anything like that because he's really good in this type of list as well, but this is still a very solid list that helped me get through a lot of the climb. So if you played this past weekend, the other hot location was Karmatage, and Karmatage is on reveal effects happen twice. So I used this Hazmat deck to get from 86, and I broke through to 90, so I jumped to 95. And I tried to make that push that day, but I wasn't able to. I couldn't get to infinite that day. Even with Karmatage out, I ended up struggling, dropping down to like 93 again. But still, this deck I have to highlight because it got me from that 80 to 90 peak, which really, really helped. This deck is a pretty standard, I think, looking Hazmat deck. Hazmat in general is on reveal afflict other cards with -1 power, which is a very, very strong effect. And she recently was buffed, so she actually has 2 power now herself, which is great. You combo this with Luke Cage, who makes your cards not be able to have their power reduced, and Hazmat gets kind of stupid. You start blowing up your opponent's board by just minusing their power ridiculously, and your cards don't go down at all. You know, you combo that with Typhoid Mary to have even more stability. You know, Luke Cage doesn't get affected by this ability, cancel this whole ability out, and then you have a 10 power 4-drop, which is great. And then other than that, it's a relatively standard on reveal deck, right? I'm using Iceman, Scorpion, Ironheart, Wong. Wong will double the on reveal effects at that location, the same thing as Karmatage, which leads me to be able to play things like Dr. Doom, who will get multiple Doom bots out, which can really swing some surprise locations, which is great. Odin to reactivate all that, Absorbing Man to activate any other ability I want. Turn 6, sometimes the best turn 6 with this deck is just Hazmat Absorbing Man on top of Wong, and you just blow up the entire board, just minus tons of power, only if you have Luke Cage out, obviously. And then Spider-Woman was the last card, who just fit really nicely and just offered a really solid 5 cost, 8 power, you know, good ability. Can really be a lot of value there. This is the deck that really helped me push that final climb, but all in all, if you take anything away from this deck, or anything away from this video, the deck that helped me the most was Bast Darkhawk. So after I had gotten to 95 and then dropped back down to like 92 or 93 rank, I wanted to climb back to 100. And on the last day, with only a couple hours left, I was playing sporadically throughout the day, but this deck is what helped me finish that push. So huge shout out to this deck. This was the one that I think got me by far the most cubes. It was the most consistent and what I became the most comfortable with. If you're looking to learn how to play this deck or any 3 of these decks, like I said, they're all highlighted on my channel. Just click on that and you can see all 3 of them highlighted with a more in-depth deck breakdown, as well as at least 3 to 4 different games played and strategies talked about for each of those. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you guys for all the support on the previous videos, for liking those decks and giving them a shot. In particular, I know you guys really liked this and the Hazmat deck, so hopefully you guys enjoyed the Sentry deck as well. And thanks for the continued support. Leave a subscription to the channel for plenty more content. Leave a like, leave a comment. Let me know what you did last season and what you're most excited for going into this next one. As always, though, keep on snapping.